As a
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn. And today for you, folks, I have a new Dungeons & Dragons video that I've put together. Because today we're going to be heading to the Deep South, boys. And we're going to be talking about bards in the same instance. Because I'm going to be talking about the Banjo Lely. Which actually, the first appearance I'm really aware of this thing within Dungeons & Dragons is actually from the Bards and Rogues supplement, Songs and Silence, back in the old 3rd edition days. Now, with that being said, I'm also going to have a special guest that's going to help me with today's video. We'll tune into him in a little bit. I'm just going to take and cover the history and give some thoughts about the Banjo Lely, also known as the Banjo Uke, which essentially is realistically like the typical banjo that we think of nowadays, but it's short, kind of like a ukulele, if you will. And actually, just to kind of prove that this thing actually did show up in the Songs and Silence guide, here's actually a picture of the Banjo Lely from the Songs and Silence guide. Now, what's actually interesting about it showing up in the Songs and Silence guide, or even in Dungeons and Dragons in general, is this instrument really wasn't invented until 1917 when World War I was going on. So go figure. And probably its height of popularity might have been somewhere in like the 1920s, 1930s, or at least that's what the wiki says. I don't really know how true that is. But then, of course, it's also part of the same family as the banjo. Now, generally speaking, the difference between the two instruments, the banjo uke or the banjo lely tends to only have 4 strings, although it could have 5, where a typical banjo has typically 5 strings. But one thing that's a major difference is the dimensions. The head's a little bit bigger on it, the neck's a little bit longer. And then, of course, within this family, you also have the bass banjo, which the bass banjo, even longer neck still, thicker strings, even bigger, heavier head to give a more deep sound. Now, when it comes to popular references, George Formby, actually, who was a British entertainer, actually played the banjo uke, or the banjo lely, if you will. Whichever one you decide, they're both it's basically 2 sides of the same coin. And then when it comes to the banjo family itself, I would argue its claim to fame is really Deliverance. But anyway, folks, I think that's going to wrap up for the history for the banjo here and the banjo family. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let my friend David take over, and he's going to tell you some more about the banjo.
Howdy folks, I'm David, and today we're going to be going over one of the 2 things everyone remembers from 1972's hillbilly horror classic, Deliverance, or Paddle Faster, I Hear Banjos. Now, the banjo is a stringed instrument. Most banjos run anywhere between 4 and 6 strings. Mine's got 5. I've heard of banjos having as many as 12 strings, but I'm sure there's some bubba out there who's come up with a 1-string banjo. Now, these strings run all the way from the tailpiece, over the bridge, across the head, up the fret, and ending at the headstock. The primary way of playing the banjo is to strike the strings. You can either use your hand, or some people like to use picks. I like to do it finger style. To change the sound of the individual strings, you press down on the fretboard and that shortens the string to specified lengths and thus changing the pitch of the banjo, or is it tone. By doing this, you're able to change the sound of the banjo and play music. Another way, most banjos are tuned to the key of G. Tuning is controlled by the tuning pegs up here at the headstock. If we use the big string as an example, we are able to change the tone or pitch of the banjo by controlling how tight or how loose the string is. Close enough. Moving back down the fretboard and past the fifth string tuning peg, we're at the head of the banjo, which sits opposite the resonator chamber of the banjo. The head and the resonator work to reverberate the vibrations of the string and make it louder. On the topic of loudness, there is also the hand rest here, which, in addition to making the banjo more comfortable to play, it also has the benefit of helping your hand not rest on the head and thus dampening noise. With my palm on the head, it's a lot quieter than if my hand is not on the head. Well, folks, that's a quick overview of the banjo. What a joyous instrument.
All right, folks, so that was David Hauser. You can go check out his YouTube channel. I will try to make sure I put a link in the video description below. He actually plays several different types of instruments and plays kind of a mix of different types of music with different types of instruments. Although I already said he plays different types of instruments, huh? Anyway, folks, just want to give a quick shout out to David there. He really helped me out with this video because realistically, when it comes to playing the banjo, well, realistically, the best way to go is find someone who actually knows how to play the banjo. But anyway, folks, hopefully you all enjoyed this video and may even consider using the banjo or the banjo uke for your bards next time you make a bard for Dungeons and Dragons. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, maybe learned a little bit about something about the banjo and things of that nature. Anyway, folks, once again, thank you very much for tuning in and have yourselves a wonderful day.